Pelosi's chair on for size, as if they were in an amusement park, and hadn't just violently overtaken the halls of the United States.
Come on, play.
Back with you as Peacock's special coverage of the Electoral College vote continues. Lawmakers resuming the work of their day now that the occupation of the Capitol by an angry mob of pro-Trump supporters has been quelled by police and the National Guard called in. Donald Trump is a man who demands absolute loyalty, and the men and women who gathered in D.C. on the day a joint session of Congress counts the Electoral College votes interpreted expressing that loyalty today as, let's storm the United States Capitol in an attempt to thwart democracy and scare the bejesus out of everybody who works there. Lawmakers and their staff crouched under desks and put on gas masks. Some were...
It's crazy. It don't even look like a gas mask. It looks like they put a plastic bag over their head, and they do seem like they're in disarray and they don't know what to do. So this is the government being scared. So even though the MAGA supporters are dumb and stupid, and this is what the left should have been doing. This is where force the vote. They just kind of wandered in. They just kind of wandered in, and it was like fun and playful to some extent, but to the next extent, the implications was terrifying. So the one guy is going to sit in Pelosi's chair just having a good old time, and people are climbing the wall, and then somebody grabbed a podium, and they was carrying it out and was, playing around, and then they were talking about desecrating the statues and all this other dumb shit.
Was spirited away to undisclosed safe locations as the rioters clashed with police. Guns were drawn. Yes, guns were drawn as right-wing extremists tried to break down the barricaded door to the House chamber.
So here's this photo. John Theodore said that there's no evidence of none of it, but they tried to, knock down the door to the House chambers, and there was guns pointed right at the door, and they said that's probably where the window, and it looks like, I don't know, it looks like actually the guy is looking right at the person who is taking the picture. I would say it's this guy, this white guy here, who looks right at the camera. He's pointed at that angle, and they said, get away from the windows. So she was kind of by the door. Looks like he's balding. He looks like Bill Burr, only, not as square jaw. It's more, he's got more of a round head. He's got fading hairline, and he's balding, right? Looks to be in his 30s, 40s, white male. Bet you he shot and killed her.
Others decided to try House Speaker Pelosi's chair on for size, as if they were in an amusement park, and hadn't just violently overtaken the halls of the United States government. Shortly before nightfall and before curfew in Washington, D.C., police and troops cleared the Capitol. The day began with the president's personal lawyer, Rudy Giuliani, telling a rally of Trump supporters in D.C., let's have trial by combat. That's a direct quote. And the president himself encouraging them to fight.
We're going to have to fight much harder. And after this, we're going to walk down, and I'll be there with you. We're going to walk down. We're going to walk down anyone you want, but I think right here we're going to walk down to the Capitol. And we're going to cheer on our brave senators and congressmen and women. And we're probably not going to be cheering so much for some of them. Because you'll never take back our...
So he's got like a nice plexiglass, right? He's sitting there reading his speech, but this is in front of his own supporters. So clearly he doesn't even trust his own supporters. Remember how he's talking about how dirty they were? He didn't want to shake their hands and shit with the COVID.
Country with weakness. You have to show strength, and you have to be strong.
The president may have gotten the fight that he wanted, but he certainly hasn't gotten the intended results from anybody in power. As debate has resumed, a growing number of senators now say they will no longer object to Biden's electoral votes, including James Lankford, Steve Daines, and lame duck Georgia Republican Kelly Loeffler.
Mr. President, when I arrived in Washington this morning, I fully intended to object to the certification of the electoral votes. However, the events that have transpired today have forced me to reconsider, and I cannot now in good conscience object to the certification of these electors. The violence, the lawlessness, and siege of the halls of Congress are abhorrent and stand as a direct attack on the very institution my objection was intended to protect, the sanctity of the American democratic process. And I thank law enforcement for keeping us safe.
Funny what an election defeat can do to you. Others like Josh Hawley are showing no such regret. Donald Trump has announced his schedule for tomorrow. President Trump will work from early in the morning until late in the evening. He will make many calls and have many meetings. Yeah. It remains quiet but tense outside the Capitol at this hour where there's a beefed-up presence. Joining us now to discuss the situation is Karl Racine, the D.C. Attorney General. Thank you so much for coming back on the show. Last month you were here on our show to talk about pro-Trump street violence, and you said, let's not be distracted. The real focus should be on 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. Even some Republicans are correctly, finally, blaming Donald Trump for what happened today, including the death of a woman who was shot in the Capitol. But what can you do at this point other than clean up this mess?
Well, I think that that's about all we can do right now is to ramp up and usher